you think Sri Lanka will make it to the World Test Championship final in this circuit?
It will be defendable, dashing, and very skillful, and that's what DDS stands for. But I'm going to make a prediction now. This might be the last we see him on this tour of England. Pathum
I was
Nisanka.
about to come to this though. Where is the likes of Nuwan Pradeep? Where is Dushmanta Chamira? Where is the vast experience? Has he retired? Where is Suranga Lakmal? Has he retired? He's not in the frame. How good is Sanat Jayasuriya, the coach, so far has been for Sri Lanka? Yet another Asian side when it comes to World Test Championship, and so far what has been their journey and what is coming up for them. We're coming into the Sri Lankans who won the Women's Asia Cup recently against Team India. I have Viren all the way from Sri Lanka. He has a bright smile on his face, but a little bit of nervous as well when it comes to the ongoing Test series that going on at England. Viren, welcome to the show. First of all, a little bit of reflect about what happened when it comes to women's, first of all. Then we come to the men's. But what about the women's victory that you won at home against the mighty Indians?
Oh, that was a fantastic month, Pritham. I think when I was on air last, we were also looking at the men's ODI series, looking ahead to the India-Sri Lanka series. We had a very good month to be a Sri Lankan fan. And I predicted this. I was on air covering and commentating for the Sri Lanka-West Indies Women's Series before the Asia Cup. And I said that we were going to be favorites, in my opinion, in home conditions. And what was nice to see is that it was not just Chamari who was stepping up. There are youngsters like Vishnu Gunaratna who stepped up when it mattered. And Harshita Samaravikrama has taken her career to a new level altogether, and she has now just sealed a deal with Trinbago Knight Riders in the
Yeah.
CPL as well. So brilliant to see other players stepping up. And I think the assumption that it's just Chamari who carries the side can finally be laid to rest. I think you have so many other players who are proving their worth in the national setup. So kudos to Ramesh Ratnayaka and the coaching staff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But when it comes to the men's who had the success against Team India in the white ball format, in the ODI format, do you still thank them when it comes to the success or the form they brought out from the rank of Premier League?
Yes, and I think, and I said this on air when we were previewing that ODI series, that first ODI was going to be crucial. And I think, had that ODI gone India's way, had Ashleigh and Dubey seen India through, the series would have been completely different. I was at the Premadasa for that final ODI, and that was an electrifying atmosphere. I think I haven't seen the Premadasa that hyped up in a long time. And kudos to Sanat Jayasuriya. I saw him in the dugout throughout the game, and I think he has an influence. He's relatable. People can relate to him. There's a lot of respect because he's a former veteran,
Yeah.
and I think that had a huge impact as well. So kudos to Dudit
But
Vellal again.
how good is Sanat Jayasuriya, the coach, so far has been for Sri Lanka?
Fantastic. I have no complaints, and I think we've seen him reaping the rewards for it. We've seen him live the game. He actually lives each and every delivery, and I think that's very important. Um, but it's unfortunate he's kind of highlighted that this is going to be his final tour, that he's only taken it up on an interim capacity.
Oh.
Um, but
He's not going
I
to be
think
permanent anymore.
no, so after the England tour, this is his last assignment. But one thing he
Wow.
has stated was that he will be around, and I foresee him maybe even taking on the role that Mahela had over the past 3, 4 years as maybe like the director of coaching to oversee everything. So it'll be interesting to see who our permanent appointment is. There are a lot of contenders, including those in the think tank itself. There are people like Trina Kandambi. There's also talk that people in the coaching setup itself, Trina Kandambi, Upul Chandana, Akib Javed, might take on the role of full-time coach. But that's something that remains to be seen. But I think Sanat will have a lot of influence over who gets selected as
Because I've
full-time
seen
coach.
Sanat Jayasuriya, like in the tour versus India, Gambhir was sitting in the dressing room, rightly so, what all coaches will do. But Sanat Jayasuriya with his coaching staffs were at the stadium, at the edge of the boundary line. And I think that's where you need an experienced candidate when it comes to inexperienced bunch of players like Sri Lanka. though they have a couple of experienced ones, but the likes of Lalage, the other bowlers as well. The way the bowlers bowled more than the batters, I think credit goes to them. And that's the way I want to start proceedings when it comes to the points table of Sri Lanka. Is that can these players who have won your recently concluded ODI series against India, can these players bring the skill sets and produce the same in red ball cricket?
That's an open-ended question, and I think my response to that is a yes and a no. A yes, because I think we are very, very competitive at home. We'll take any side to goal and try to clean up the game in 3 or 4 days. It'll happen against New Zealand. It'll happen against the West Indies. Um, but my
So you're
worry is
confident that
whenever.
you're going to beat New Zealand at home?
Yeah, and I think we have, and our test setup is our test side is very settled when playing at home or in Asian conditions. We saw that in Bangladesh when we beat Bangladesh 2-love. We saw that whenever we've had teams coming down to Sri Lanka in the last cycle, we drew a series against Australia, drew a series against Pakistan. Um, and we have players like Prabhat Jayasuriya, etc., who can deliver and have single-handedly delivered in spin-friendly conditions here. But why my response also has a no in it, Pritham, and I don't really blame Sri Lanka cricket for this, but blame the ICC for this, is this is our first tour to England in like 5 years, right? We've not been in England for a long time. We've hardly stepped foot in to into Sena countries to play Test cricket, and yes, it's a daunting ordeal. Like when you have the Duke's ball that you're working on, you're going to have players like Kusal Mendis, Nishan Madhushka struggle early on. We saw that again today, both getting out for. We saw that again during the ongoing test, both getting out for a duck. And I think that's a test that will only be overcome through exposure and through practice. And then your question to me will be, look, in 2016, Sri Lanka won our only series uh, against England in England. But we had experienced players. We had players like Sangha, Mahela, who were steadying the ship, who were very adaptable in terms of how they played the game. And I think it's only
Absolutely.
exposure that will help.
Absolutely, and I 100% agree. And we will see what cap happens. But this points table looks impressive, to be honest, Viren, because number four, last time as well, you were marginally there to make it to the World Test Championship finals, but it was by the barest of margins. As we all say, Sri Lanka couldn't make it to the World Test Championship final to face India. But this time as well, you started off well. But it's this away tour which we're going to talk about against England that might turn out to be a turning point for is Sri Lanka when it comes to their journey making in the to the top. But my question, as I've always asked, you're in such a good position. Do you think Sri Lanka will make it to the World Test Championship finals?
A lot will hinge on this ongoing series. If we get away with it with a couple of draws and do damage control in England, I think we will leave ourselves well poised when they come back down to face New Zealand later on in the year.
So are you
But I think,
taking a draw as a comparatively victory when it comes to away to England?
yeah, not just given the World Test Championship table, but given our lack of exposure to playing in England, and with the brand of cricket England are playing now in Test cricket, with baseball, with a brilliant setup, I think I'll definitely take a series draw.
Okay, that's something very honest of your end. But we're done with the points table. But when it comes to what about the schedule for Sri Lanka, Viren, like you rightly said, and you rightly mentioned it before as well, 2-0 to Pakistan, then Bangladesh as well 2-0, and then comes England, New Zealand, and South Africa. Huge ones. But first of all, England away from home.
Yeah, very tough one. Because of the reason, because of the aforementioned reasons, we've hardly played Test cricket or any form of cricket in England consistently over the past 4 or 5 years. Um, there are some players who were given stints in the county championship, and those players have stepped up. Asita Fernando had a brief stint in the county championship, bowled really well in the ongoing test. Vishwa Fernando as well, his new ball partner, had a couple of games for Yorkshire, and 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 such experiences will only bode well.
But do you think
But
the same conditions will be getting difficult at South Africa as well? Because that is also an away tour. You face, apart from Australia, you face the Sena countries in your next three games series, rather. But I think I'll keep aside New Zealand one because it's at home and you're confident on your spinners. But England, South Africa, which tour amongst these two, England and South Africa, are you more confident to get a result out of it?
I'd like to put my head out there and say South Africa because we have had recent success in South Africa. When we won the series in 2019, 2-0, most of the squad actually played in South Africa, the likes of Kusar Mendes, Dimut, Chandimal, Matthews. Our batters have had more recent exposure in South African conditions. Um, but those are our two tough ones, and if those don't go our way, we won't make it to the World Test Championship
Yep.
finals. It's important for us
Absolutely. You might get
to
your
find
home
something.
victories, but away from home is very crucial, Viren, and as you rightly said. But when it comes to the squad for Sri Lanka, we have the names out here, but a couple of players is missing out here. I want to know, where are they? Where is the likes of Nuwan Pradeep? Where is Dushmanta Chamira? Where is the vast experience? Has he retired? Where is Suranga Lakmal? Has he retired? He's not in the frame. Where are these players, to be honest?
So Suranga Lakmal has retired from international cricket. He had a stint in Derbyshire immediately thereafter, but now plays Legends Leagues around the world. Nuwan Pradeep has passed the twilight of his career as well. I think you won't really
He,
see him in
he, he
national
played the
side.
LPL recently.
Yeah, played quite well, but he's always been injury prone. I think the selectors are now starting to look past him. We have a good cohort of fast bowlers, the likes of Asta Fernando, Vishwa Fernando, Milan Ratnayake, you saw today, Lahiru Kumara, Dilshan Madhushanka in the wings, and you've got players like Luan Tushara who might be given a game depending on conditions.
Dushmanta
I think this
Chamira, where is he?
Bismarck Chamira again, once again, because he's so injury prone, I think he
Yeah.
will be limited to the shortest formats of the game. We might not see him in test colours again for Sri Lanka. So I think over the past,
Is it just because of his injury record? You don't want to give him an
yeah,
overload of Test
and he
cricket as well?
doesn't play much first class cricket in Sri Lanka anymore either. And I think over the past year, we've been quite confident in placing that responsibility on the likes of Vishnu Fernando, Asita Fernando, Lahiru Kumar, etc. So I think we'll stick to that same cohort. In terms of our batters, Angelo and Chandi, this might be their final WTC campaign. I think with young players like Pawan Ratnayaka, um, coming to Mendes, stepping up to the fore, you'd expect them to replace Chandimal and Matthews next year. So I think it's nice having the experience around Dimut. He's been the most underrated opener in world cricket over the past decade in my books. Um,
Wow.
he's had so many
So
crucial
you
knocks.
rate him higher than the likes of Upul Taranga as well?
Yeah, I would go so far as to say he's been one of our most successful test batters.
Wow.
Given the fact that we didn't have a golden generation after 2014, Dimut has played some absolutely stellar knocks, both at home and away. He's had some brilliant centuries in New Zealand in tough conditions. Um, and a lot will rest on his shoulders in the ongoing test series, both in England and the one coming up in South Africa, to see how he fares. But yeah, I see him maybe sticking around for another year or two, given his
And
experience.
what about the legend Angela Matthews? Do you think he will be one of the finest all rounders for Sri Lanka, or is he the finest all rounder for Sri Lanka?
I mean, Angelo Matthews will always have a what if story linked to him. When he made his debut in 2008, all the way up to 2011, he didn't miss a single international game for Sri Lanka. And
But
a
but but
a
you
fun
you
fact
you
for our
said
viewers.
about you said about he has a what if story. Don't send the story to Bangladesh though.
Exactly. But a fun fact, the first game Matthews missed out on due to injury was the 2011 World Cup final because he got injured in the semi-final against New Zealand here.
So
And
are you saying it's a blessing in disguise for India?
Uh, but potentially because we had to change the shape of our side for that final game.
Oh come on, we
But
anyways would have
analyzing
won
Math-
the World Cup.
but analyzing Matthew's career, I think he's been unfortunate. He's been riddled with injuries. whenever he's gained momentum, he's lost out due to injury. Uh, those days he used to bowl at 135, 140 clicks, but now he gets nowhere near that. Maybe his peak pace now is 125, 130 on his good day. And yeah, he could have gone down as not just Sri Lanka's, but one of world cricket's most fancied all-rounders. But no, I think because of his injury concerns, he will be rated for his batting. He's had a brilliant test career, a decent one-day career, but there was a lot of Matthews that was left to be seen in the shortest format of the game.
Okay, we have seen a lot of come into Mendes in the recent past in the white ball. Has wonderful stats when it comes to red ball cricket as well. We're seeing him perform well in the England soil as well. A player to watch out for in the future for sure.
Definitely. Going into this series, he was one of the only batters to have an average exceeding Don Bradman. Going into this series, he had a brilliant start to his Test career. And another tool that he has, which I hope our next coach utilizes, especially at home, is that he's an ambidextrous spinner. He can bowl with both hands, and that's a huge asset to have, especially in South Asian conditions. So I'd like to see Kamid Mendes, the all-rounder, stepping up.
Absolutely, that's a rare find, but I'm surprised that not to see him expose the surfaces so much with right hand, left hand, because he can bowl whenever you want. He can bowl to left-handers, he can bowl to right-handers. That's the advantage. Pacers can be seen. I'm pretty much. I really like the way Lahiru Kumara deals things with the new ball, with the red chili. Avishka Fernando, as you said. Kasun Rajit, I think he lacks a lot of pace. When it comes to left-handed, you have a couple of left-handed seamers as well. Top cast, I must say, Prabhat Jayasuriya is the left arm orthodox as well when it comes to your spinning department. But let's go on to this most runs as well for Sri Lanka. And you have your skipper out there, Dhananjay De Silva, in this World Test Championship cycle with the runs more than 580. Coming to Mendes, Dunit Karunarathne is there, Angela Matthews, and then you have Madhushka. Talk us through Madhushka. How has he been when it comes to opening against red ball cricket?
Nishan Madhushka has been quite prolific in Asian conditions, but I'm going to make a prediction now. This might be the last we see him on this tour of England. Pathum
I was
Nisanka
about to come to this though. Yeah.
Pathum Nisanka will definitely, in my opinion, come into the 11 for the second and third test. Pathum Nisanka is arguably our most technically gifted batter. He's had back cut injuries in the past, which is why I don't think Sri Lanka wanted to risk him in by playing him in all three tests. But because of Nishan Madhushka's poor showing in the first test, I do see Pathum Nisanka coming in.
Okay, but he's going to pair with Karunaratne, as you rightly said. But we have this when it comes to leading run scorer, leading wicket takers on the column as well, Viren. And that has to be Pranav Jasuria at the top of the list. What a left arm spinner you've got in your team as well. Lairu Kamara, Vishwa Fernando, Kasun Rajita, Ashita Fernando, the pacers you spoke about. Talk us through all these five players and why do you think these will be the players you have to pick when it comes to every time in the playing 11?
It's brilliant seeing four pacers in Sri Lanka's leading wicket takers list. And I think this
Exactly.
is due to their brilliant performance in Bangladesh. All four of them were absolutely prolific in Bangladesh, when Prabhat wasn't getting much assistance, surprisingly. And Prabhat is a brilliant linchpin with the ball. He's a late bloomer. There were other youngsters like Lasit Denia and Praveen Jayavikrama who were ahead of Prabhat in the pecking order until both of them got injured before the Pakistan series at home in the last World Test Championship cycle. And Prabhat was given an opportunity. And he's capitalized, and now he's our front runner with the ball. But yeah, brilliant to see some variety.
Okay, so four seamers, that's a wonderful to be seen for Sri Lanka when it comes to they mostly play in Asian conditions. But away from this, is a very handy stat as well. But when it comes to the captain himself, it's a massive opportunity seeing so many experienced players amongst the mix. You have Kushal Mendes, you have Angela Matthews, you have the Karuna Ratne as well. But you have Dhananjay De Silva, who has been given the captaincy role now. He is taking the responsibility. How has he been as a test captain? Is it the first tour he is doing as a test captain against Sri Lanka? But the stat says 9 matches, 458 runs, best of 173 with an average of 28. Impressive. But when it comes to leadership, how has he been, Viren?
He's been brilliant. He's our Mr. Dependable, uh, Mr. Reliable, Dhananjay De Silva. dependable, dashing, and very skillful, and that's what DDS stands for. He's fantastic as a leader, and he has the help of three former captains around him, Dimut, Chandimal, and Angelo. Um, he's one of our most stylish batters on his day. I don't think the numbers do him justice. We saw that in the first innings of the ongoing test, shepherding Sri Lanka out of a real rut. And yeah, he's someone who maintains his composure throughout. So, a good successor to Dimut Karunaratne.
Okay, so do you think he will carry on as the captaincy at least for this WTC cycle?
Definitely and beyond. I think he has what it takes to be our captain for the next 2 3 years.
Okay, so that's very impressive to hear that Dhananjay De Silva will be the captain according to Viren for the next couple of years as well when it comes to Sri Lankan cricket. It's good to see. But when it comes to the players to watch out for, Viren, I have picked my five players: Kushal Mendes, Angela Matthews, Kamindu Mendes, Vishwa Fernando, and Prabhat Jayasuriya. Here are my five. If you can go through these players and give us a thought. And do you have any changes first of all?
Kusal Mendes is an iffy one in my books because he's not been overly prolific in Test cricket lately, and we'd like to see him really consolidate that number three position for himself.
Yeah.
He's coming up against a lot of competition domestically as well, so it'll be good to see him step up. Angelo Matthews, purely because of his experience, I think he has to be there. And if he has a good WTC campaign, it bodes well for Sri Lanka. Maybe instead of Kusam Mendes, I'd have Dimut there, also for the experience, and also because he is that stalwart at the top of the order. Coming to Mendes, it'd be nice to see how he features for the rest of the WTC campaign. I'd like
Yeah.
to see him batting slightly higher up the order, and that's something that the selectors will keep a close eye on. For me, Vishwa Fernando and Asita Fernando have that same responsibility. Akib Javed, in his press conference the other day, said that Asita Fernando is made one of the most skillful bowlers he's seen after Mohammad Asif, with his ability to swing the ball both
But
ways. And I
but
think
don't I'm saying it once again. Don't you think these seamers away from home do not have that pace? You always have to be around that 135 mark. Do they have that pace? Similarly, like I said about Kasun Rajita as well.
and we've always lacked the pace. If you look at Chaminda Bas during the peak of his career, when he was very effective away, it was not because of his pace, but it was because of his guile with the ball.
Yeah,
And I think that's
yeah.
something Vishwa and Asita will have to take a leaf out of. And Prabhat, a linchpin in all conditions, proved to be quite effective in the ongoing test as well. So it'll be nice to see what he has in store for us going forward.
So you're going with a similar five players that I have gone with as well.
Definitely. Maybe Asita Fernando Dimut are two other names I'd look out for. And I'd also add Chandimal to the fray because there's a lot of talk about him passing his prime now. But
And the way he has made his comeback into the international circuit.
exactly. Yeah, so he had a brilliant double century against Australia at home last year. So it'll be interesting to see how his career shapes up, or the rest of his career shapes up through this WTC campaign.
Absolutely, that's something I'm really excited to know, and I'll ask the same as well. Do you think Dinesh Chandimal still has a couple of years' time, a couple of years cricket left in him for
I
Sri
think if
Lanka?
there's a format that can be used to elongate Matthews and Chandimal's career, it would be Test cricket. I think we need their services, their experience, and Test cricket has been our best format over the past 3 4 years. You rightly said we narrowly missed out on the World Test Championship final in the last cycle. So yeah, I think it'll be important for these three experienced stalwarts to stick around and oversee a transition.
Okay, fair enough. So players to watch out for is done and dusted. Here is my general playing 11 when it comes to Sri Lankan cricket. And here it is. Dunik Karunaratne, Pathum Nisanka. Even I have gone with him as the opening pair as well. Kushal Mendes at 3, Angela at 4. Dinesh Chandimal with the gloves at number 5. Dhananjay De Silva, your skipper at number 6. Kamindu Mendes 7. Pretty good batting unit. Your only spinner with Prabhu Jayasuriya and the three seamers Lairu Kamara, Vishwa Fernando, and Dushmantha Chamira is what I've gone with. What are your changes? Are you going with Ashita Fernando as well?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think Dushman's test career might be well and truly over. So I see Asita Fernando in there. I see Kasun Rajata in the mix. If you're playing at home in against New Zealand, etc., we might see a second spinner,
Yeah.
be it Jeffrey Vandase, uh, be it Lassit Tembuldeni, Praveen Dravikrama, Ramesh Mendis. We've got quite a few spinners in the waiting list. So those would be my two changes.
So as there is so many number of spinners in the rank, the chances for somebody like a young Dunit Wellalagi decreases.
No, I'd love to see Dunit, and I'd actually love to see him batting at number 8 in Test cricket as well. And I'd like to see him in the mix, also because of his batting prowess. So yeah, I definitely have Dunit in the mix, and maybe push Prabhat down one place in the batting lineup.
Okay, so that's pretty much done and dusted when it comes to squad analysis of Sri Lanka in the WTC cycle. Viren, one question there and there, and as we have for you throughout the entire show, I've asked the same as well. Do you think Sri Lanka will make it to the World Test Championship final in this circuit?
It will depend on this tour to England in cold conditions. Quite fittingly, I'm also under the weather here in Sri Lanka. But no, it'll hinge on this series in England. If we do come out with victorious, which is very unlikely, then I'll say yes. If not, I'd like a respectable finish. Another fourth or fifth place finish will be respectable.
Okay, so you've gone with your say as well. Thank you so much, Viren. Thank you to all the viewers for watching this video. Sri Lanka squad analysis done and dusted for the WTC final. Let us know in the comments as well. Do you think this team will once again be out of the finals of the World Test Championship, or will they make it to the World Test Championship final? Till then, don't forget to subscribe to the Fifth Umpire. Press the bell icon as well. Thank you so much, and bye bye.